have some pictures that were given to me by, I think it was Norma. She must have gone through High's place, and these are of his family. And I just wanted to see if maybe you remembered or knew of any of these people. And you probably don't remember this one, but this was High's mother, Dora Bell. Does that ring a name?
No,
ring a bell with you?
not a bit.
That one is of a house with a bunch of people, and I don't know who they are in the front. He didn't have them identified.
I wouldn't have any idea.
I would imagine they're over in Harper.
I think that's where they originated, was over in there.
I don't.
I'm going to go get my glasses because I see them, but I'm going to. I don't have any idea.
Yeah, and that. I don't think that's probably his parents in front of the house, but it could be a grandparent.
Boy, they really built the square houses, didn't they?
Yeah. I like this picture. It's big front of a house, and notice there's no steps or anything on it, but it's a nice picture of them.
Is this him or him here?
I have no idea who any of the. That's the problem, is he didn't identify most of the pictures.
Boy, that's a tall guy there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Look at the legs on him.
Yeah.
My God, he must be 6'2" or 3 at least.
I think taller than that.
Yeah, he could be 6'5" or 6.
Yeah, he's tall. This is another one. I get the impression that horses were important in the family.
That looks like it could be High, but I doubt it.
You think so? It's possible. I wish he would have identified.
Yeah.
Now this picture, I'm confident that, of course, High's on the left.
Yeah, that's Art.
No, I think those.
Wait a minute.
No, I think that's High and his siblings. That's his sister.
Yeah, that looks like Art to me, but it isn't.
No. One of them was Clifford Joseph Ludwig, and the other one was Ray, I think, Ludwig, and his sister was Merrill, and she. I'm trying to think of. Was it Long? Was the married name?
Look at the noses.
Yeah. Those are the only ones that survived. He had two brothers who died as infants. And the other thing that I discovered was that, and you've always told me that it was his aunt that raised him.
Aunt Mame.
Aunt Mame. And there's a picture of her in here too. A whole bunch of pictures. Okay, now that's another one of his sister, Merrill. Where'd it go? Lenny, of course. Gosh, I wonder what I did with him. Huh. Thought I brought him along with me. Doggone it.
Mame tatted. You ever hear of tatting? It's like crocheting or something, but it's a lot finer work, I think. And she did a lot of tatting. I remember sitting there doing that.
Well, Aunt Mame was his mother's sister, and she never married. What I found was that he was, at the age of 3, he and Merrill were still living in the with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
But sometime between then and 8 years old, he went to live with his aunt because he was in the census with her at that point. Do you have any idea why she would have adopted High, or why he would have been living with her? Was he a troublesome child?
I have no idea.
Huh.
I think her name was Bauer.
Right.
And so I think her name was Amelia, but
Right.
But Mame they called her.
Yes.
And but then later I remember when he and Dorothy moved to that house next to where we lived at one time, that he had a sign on the garage that said Ludwig. He
Right.
went back to the Ludwig name again. He didn't, but he was always known as High Bauer
Right.
by everybody around there.
What about Dorothy? Did she go by Ludwig or Bauer?
I think Bauer.
Really?
The High Bauer, I think.
So legally she was a Bauer.
Yeah, I think so.
Huh. Well, that's what makes me think that he was adopted then.
Could have been.
This is a picture. It's kind of hard to tell, but the boy in the front is High. His mother is way up at the top, and if you can look closely enough, you can see that she's throwing like an orange.
Yeah, it looks like an orange going
Yeah.
through the air there.
And
That was
then-
good photography. Somebody caught that.
Yeah, that was fast. And then at the left, you can see is High's dad, and then it looks like in a barrel is his sister Merrill.
Uh-huh. They're all in the bushes there, aren't they?
Well, they must have been growing fruit of some kind.
Yeah, that's an apple, I think.
Yeah.
There was an apple that looks like apple tree, not trimmed up. They just let the branches hang down and everything.
Well, I think his mother lived until she was, I think in the 1960s is when she died.
I didn't realize that.
Did you ever meet her, do you think?
Not that I know of.
Or his dad? Because his dad lived until the 1950s.
Think so.
Hmm.
Never even knew he had a dad and mother.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of him taken at an older age with them. And I think I've got it in here, as a matter of fact, now that I think about it. So that's his dad, mother, and
Yeah.
his brothers and sister.
Huh. No idea. Nope.
You don't remember ever seeing any?
Never
of them?
seen any of them that I know of.
Well, he must have still got along with them to some degree because he was still hanging around him, and he looked like he's halfway happy in this picture.
Mhm.
So I think one of the brothers ended up in California. I just don't know enough about him, although I am in communication with somebody up in Seattle that is in that part of the family, and I'm hoping that they can help me at some point. But I have these pictures, and I just they're not identified, so I've been trying to learn a little bit more about High and what he did. What kind of jobs did he have?
He painted, I think, did paper hanging. When I was a teenager, he worked in a furniture store for Chambers, Earl Chambers, and remember going down there, and I think I helped sometimes with it. Didn't do much. I was one of these kids that somebody, they'd hire me for a couple days for something and a couple days for something else, and maybe pay me and maybe not pay me or whatever. So
So High was
keeping me busy at least.
So High was a little bit of a furniture maker then, you think?
No, he was pretty handy, but he worked in a furniture store that sold retail.
Okay.
And they had an auction one, and I remember he and I were there, and if anybody bought anything, we loaded it up and took it out to them. That was in the evening of I remember that one time.
This was in Kyoto?
Yeah. I don't remember too many jobs he had, but he was a professional painter and did that. I was trying to think what else he did. Don't really know.
Did you ever know a Pauline Crooks?
No.
Nobody by the name of Crooks
No.
around Harper? How about a Curtis Trevor?
No.
Or someone with the last name Latta, Latta?
No. The only ladders I remember, they had those up Cedar Falls where I went to school at Iowa State Teachers College. There's a bookstore or something, Latta's. There was a big bookstore up there, but that's the only Latta I knew.
How did Hyde treat Dorothy? Was he pretty good with her?
I think so. Yeah, I am not sure, and I wouldn't want to, but I think he had a form of epilepsy or something, a little bit. I think Mom told me that one time. But Dorothy acted like she was kind of subservient, but I've heard her really get on him one time about stuff. She could get pretty vociferous if she needed to be. So,
is that right?
And but most of the time she just went along, and I think they got along fine. He had his preferences, and he didn't want any. He was one that didn't want leftovers. I don't think he didn't want to eat leftovers.
Yeah.
And they wanted Heinz ketchup. I remember that. Some things of that sort.
Huh.
But they didn't have a lot of money either. But they had no children. And
you think that was by choice? Was High?
I think so, probably. I don't know. I never thought about it too much or delved into it.
Now, he also, I think, was having to take care of or help take care of your grandma Lenny, too.
Well, yeah, Dorothy they practically, every day she was down there at Grandma's house, and she, I suppose, do a little work at home, get herself, of course, her house was spick and span, and she'd go down and spend the day with Grandma, and somebody wondered how in the world she was going to get along when Grandma left, but seemed to adjust okay.
Did High joke around with Lenny much?
To a certain extent, yeah. He it always shocked me because it was Grandma to me, and he'd say, "Well, Lenny, what do you know," or something like that. Yeah, he had a pretty good sense of humor, and as I say, he's kind of the ornery one that probably telling me stuff and using language he shouldn't have used when, but I guess it didn't contaminate me too much any more than just regular run-of-the-mill stuff.
So how did High get along with your dad?
Fine. Yeah, they were okay.
Do you think he was pretty much accepted as one of the members of the family?
Yeah. Yeah, they, I can't think of anybody that thought any different about it. He was married to Dad's sister, so he was part of the family and got along.
Now, do you think that Lenny liked him well enough?
Oh yeah, as long as she got treated well and everything went along, why she didn't judge people too much, I don't think.
How about your mom? Did she like High?
Yeah.
And you never saw him with any of his other family then, huh?
No, not that I know of.
That's interesting because Harper's just a few miles away.
About 5 miles.
Yeah, it's almost as if he kind of...
He just more or less divorced himself, at least as far as we were concerned. Now maybe Mom and Dad saw him with somebody, but not to my knowledge. I never saw him with anybody from his side of the family.
I'm just so curious as to why they adopted him out. Because they ended up having children after that. They had, I think, a total of 7 children. He was the oldest, and they adopted him out between the ages of 3 and 8, and they didn't do that with any of the other ones, and they were only 5 miles away. They continued to see him. I'm assuming that the Aunt Mame lived in Harper also, right?
I think she was originally there. Yeah.
So that whole thing just sounds
It's
really
bizarre.
Yeah, it is. And it sounds like he kind of cut the family out a little bit, and yet the few pictures that I've seen of him later in life, he seemed happy at least taking a picture with them.
Oh, I didn't even know he had a family that existed.
Yeah.
Never discussed it. Mom never said anything. I probably visited with Mom about stuff. I've always been sorry that I never quizzed my dad more about his family. Dad would have told me things, but he mentioned little stuff that this went on or that with his dad, and he used to say that his dad would punch him in the back once when he's walking down the street and tell him straighten up, walk with his shoulders squared, you know. But he never criticized his dad in spite of the fact that his dad wasn't the most dependable of people. I've never heard him say anything disparaging about his dad, and I just never thought to ask him much about what went on. I know that he used to tell me that it sounded funny at the time, but it wasn't funny when it happened, that Art would get, his younger brother Art would get mouthy with a couple kids, and then they'd beat Dad up on the way home from school. That two of them would gang up on Dad and beat him up, and so he had to put up with that when he was a kid too. So.
Well, speaking of Art, do you know when he left the Navy?
In the 40s?
Was it after World War II?
Yes, he was in World War II also.
And do you know what rank he held when he?
He was a chief warrant officer.
Chief warrant officer.
I think that was his highest rank.
So he was in from World War I through World War II. So he was in for more than 25 years, and he didn't go like in between, go into the reserves, or
no.
He was active all the way through. Wow.
And they lived in Springfield, Missouri, and built a nice house, ranch type house. We went down and visited him down there.
And that's where her family was from.
Yes. What was her?
Jewel?
No, that was Mabel. Jewel was her sister. Mabel was his wife. What was their last names?
Witherspoon?
Yes, it was. Because her brother John, I remember him.
Well, that's it's interesting to me that Art stayed in the Navy that long, and I just wondered, do you know if he saw any battles in World War II or World War I?
Never even asked him. He never mentioned too much about it. He was quite a joker. He could put you on quite a bit with stuff, yet he could get serious. He and I played golf a couple times together. He liked to play golf. And he told me, Bob, if you're going to be a better golfer, you're going to have to say, I was using a 10-finger grip, both hands, and he said, you're going to have to get a different grip than that or something. And we were playing together one time. I think he just kind of gave it up at the end there. He had some heart trouble also. Of course, that kind of ran in the family, I think. Dad and he. Guess Jess didn't. I don't guess. Chance didn't either, I guess. I don't know.
Well, he was 71, I think, when he died. Your dad was 73, I believe.
Yeah, 73, and he died in 72. So, no, he must have been 70. Just barely. He was going to be 74 on his next birthday. He died in December, and his birthday was in January of the next year. So he died in 72, I remember that.
Yeah, he was another one I wish I could sit down and talk to a little bit. I'm sure he's got some good stories. Well, you were talking yesterday about the incident in the Army that you were mowing. Can you replay that one?
Well, it was one of those deals. I was kind of in between. I think I was at, I don't remember for sure, but I think I was at Jefferson Barracks, and they were trying to keep us busy doing something. And they asked if anybody, I don't know, they pulled the old deal, if anybody knew how to type, and then if you did, they'd give you a lawnmower to use or something like that. I don't know if they did that, but I like mowing. That's what I did when I was a kid, so I didn't mind. And so they said, okay, this needs mowing. Well, it didn't really need mowing that badly, but they didn't have a catcher on it or anything. It was a push mower, real motor, and there wasn't a big area to do. And I imagine it took me half hour to do the thing or something like that, and did it and put the mower away and took off and didn't say anything. Then the sergeant was out looking for me. I guess he thought I ought to be doing more or something. I don't know what he wanted me to do. But that's made a mistake. I don't know what would have happened to me if he'd have found me. But I went up the barracks and got under the there's a double bunk bed, and I had the lower bunk. But I got under the bunk bed, laid there, and I heard him come up, looking for that red-headed guy, and something like that. And thank goodness he didn't know my name, and then left. That ended it. I finally went downstairs and lost myself in among the throng. So,
well, I was going to show you this picture that I had told you about, that I found of the ship that you came back on.
Oh, USS Marine Serpent.
Yeah. And it's not a real good picture, and I've blown it up a little bit. But this is the ship that you came back on, and this was taken the day you came in. And I know it's hard to kind of look at and see if you can find you, but there is one soldier in there that I think might be you.
Boy, they are fuzzy-faced, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not real good.
I sure, if you think you identify, point it out to me, because I sure, well, I get these glasses off, they're less fuzzy.
Okay, do you see the black guy right here?
Yeah.
I think you're the one next to it.
With my hand under my chin?
It could be you. The shape of the face and everything. I've looked at everybody on here, I've blown it up, and that could be you.
That hair looks, or that's an insignia on that guy's arm. Thought it was my hair for a minute. That could be, I don't know. What did I have here? Is that, it's a hash mark on that sleeve? If it is, I don't know as I had one, but...
well, if it's the jacket that you still have, or that I have of yours, I can go back and look. Maybe that's the 1st Cavalry patch? Would that be on the left side?
No, the 1st Cavalry patch is up here.
Okay.
That's on the left side up on the sleeve there.
Okay.
But this showed, if this usually was showing how many years you'd been, and I hadn't been in that long, so I don't know, that might eliminate the fact that it might be me. I don't know.
Well, the only other thing I could think of is that maybe you had your hand up like this, and maybe your hand over here on there.
Possible.
So that's maybe your fingers a little bit.
Yeah, it could be.
But I'm trying to see if I can find a better picture of it. I'm hoping the negative is still around, but there were like 3 or 4 pictures taken of this of that ship on that day that you came in on. So you'd be in, I just don't know if you'd be in this crowd or maybe you were on the other side, but it was taken by Strand Photography, and Paul Strand was a famous photographer, so I'm sure he owned a bunch of them. And
this is I think this is in San Francisco.
Right.
That's where we came in.
And that's where the studio was. I think they just took pictures of the ships coming in and probably had a dark room or something right there and sold them to you guys real quick. But this was one that was up on eBay, and somebody in Singapore bought it, and I haven't been able to contact and see if I can get a copy made of it. I'd love to, because it looks like it'd be a good picture. Now, you were also telling me yesterday about learning how to write. What was that called?
The Palmer.
The Palmer method.
Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
Palmer method. That was, I am not sure, there was a Palmer chiropractic clinic in Davenport, Iowa. Now, I don't know where that originated. I keep thinking that it originated around Davenport, but I think it was pretty much universal, that method of penmanship is what they called it. And when you were first, they tried to get you to use your hand and arm rather than your fingers to do the writing. And so you had, as they said, the ovals, the circles that you did within a confined area, and then what they call push-pulls, which were just little lines up and down that you tried to run them together and make a neat pattern. And that was supposed to get your motion the way you form the letters. And as I said, I probably abandoned it pretty quickly after I learned it. I imagine I was as good as anybody or as bad as anybody at doing it. But
well, I think I learned something like that too, because I can remember a little bit of it. Maybe they had a new method by then. I don't know.
That's it. It was a pretty popular method, and I think they used to have a big, like they put the letters up on the board, you know,
Right.
in elementary school, and they'd have that symbol, those symbols up there too.
Well, they also had, didn't they, a method where there was like dots that you could put the dots, and then you were supposed to learn to just go from dot to dot to learn to do like an
I don't
H or-
remember that particularly.
and maybe that came in my
That may
time.
be more your learning than mine.
Yeah.
This was pretty much just the push-pulls and the circles.
Yeah. Can you tell me some of the nicknames from Kyoto? I know there's a lot of them.
You mean different ones for
Yeah.
the different people?
If you can remember the nicknames and who they were associated with.
Oh,
Like Hap.
there's Hap Richardson, that's Roger's dad. His name was Julian, but he was Hap. Leroy Richardson was called Peloy,
How do you spell that?
Peloy or something like that, I guess. And the Palmer boys, they were brothers. I can't remember what his real name was, but one of them was Cooney Palmer. Another one was Harold Palmer, but they called him Pete Palmer. Another one that I don't remember what his real name was, but he was Cotton Palmer.
Well, then your dad was Whitey,
Whitey.
and then there was Coffee Holmes.
Oh, there was, I was trying to think. Well, of course, Lowell Statler was Toady Statler. One of the orneriest people I have ever known in my life, I think.
Is that right?
Yep.
Still around?
No. He died a couple of 3 or 4 years ago. He just had kind of a mean streak in him that he was an intelligent enough guy, but he had to do things his way, more or less. Oh gosh, there were so many new nicknames, and you say this, and all of a sudden I go blank on
Well, then there was Roger Richardson. What was his nickname?
Jar.
And Ron Arnold
Was Jug.
Jug.
Jar and Jug. And
What about your friends growing up?
well, John Freshwaters, of course, was Freshy. Lloyd Piper, they called him Stinky Piper. I didn't go over too big with Lloyd, but I was thinking Eugene Reed was Janky Reed. Trying to think. Well, of course, sometimes they were named. Richard Weingarten we called him Dave. Well, his dad's name was David, and so kind of like my Whitey, he was Dave. Clarence Smith was Clancy, which is a pretty much a given with that. Eugene Vogel was Jeep Vogel, because during that time, during the Second World War, they came out with a cartoon about Eugene the Jeep. It was a little animal they had as in the cartoon character, so he automatically became Jeep Vogel.
And then there was Puss.
Well, that was Gerald, my uncle. Puss Arnold.
Did Everett have a nickname?
I think he was just Everett. I don't think he was a kind of a no-nonsense sort of guy, and I don't think they nicknamed him particularly.
No, it was mostly guys that got nicknames, right?
Yes, I don't think they had too many women that they had nicknames for.
Well, your mom was Margie.
Margie, but her name, I don't know as many people knew that. Her first name was really Mary.
Right.
But it was Mary Margaret, and they called her Margie all the time. And then my cousin Margaret, was Little Margie. They called her sometimes. There was Ray Callister was Chick Callister. He ran one of the beer parlors. Harold Fink was Beeler Fink. He knew somebody named Beeler, and I think it gravitated toward him. Phil Morris, another one of my friends who was a year ahead of me in school, was Doc. Well, his dad was a veterinarian, and they called Phil Doc Morris. And of course, there was Peter Flaunders, Stibe Flaunder, and Lloyd Book was called Blackie Boot. And you get to come and going through the different ones in the class there.
And of course, High was actually Albert Edward.
Yeah.
How he got High, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Did Norma have a nickname? Other than maybe one that you gave her teasingly?
Yeah. No, it's just Norma, I think. I called her Goonie sometimes. Norma June. Nice brother.
Yeah. Now, did your dad worked at a skating rink once, didn't he?
I think when he was a young man, he was one of the managers or something of when they had one after he got out of the Army. It might have been before, but I thought it was after he got out of the Army. And they kind of kept order out there, and Dad was a good skater. That came as a complete surprise to me, because in the late 30s, early 40s, they brought a skating rink back out there at the west edge of town. And I didn't know Dad had done anything at all. And my gosh, you get out there and start skating, and whoa, he really, and everybody that didn't know him, some of the guys are sitting around acting like they were laughing under their hand when he's putting on a pair of skates out there or something. Mm-hmm. And these were clamp skates, they weren't shoe skates. That he got out and started skating, the laughing stopped right there because he was good. Very graceful, yeah. Very roller skates, very good, very graceful. I didn't know this. Norma said he was a good dancer. And he was light on his feet. They were telling that when he's run the garage, the guys used to tease him, try to drop stuff on his toes, and they couldn't do it. Oh, I tell you, people that have the real forms of entertainment for themselves, don't they?
Did your parents ever tell you about the day they got married?
Yeah, they went to the courthouse in Sigourney, and Clark and Clara Teets stood up with them. They were good friends, and Clark and Dad remained good friends. Well, Clara, she was a little different, and they were a nice couple. They come over, I know it didn't happen year after year, but I know for at least a couple years they'd come over on New Year's Eve, and they'd have an oyster fry. And then Clark and Dad would go in and play cribbage after they got done with that. But I guess I got away from the marriage deal, but that they just got married in Sigourney at up at the county.
Did they have a honeymoon?
I don't know as they had too much of a one. It was in 1926, and was Dad working for? He probably was working for Canning Motors at the time down in Ottumwa. I imagine they went to Ottumwa, went back down there, lived, and then moved to Kyoto in, I don't know, 29 or 30 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was 3 or 4 years old when they moved back to Kyoto.
So, I know that remember you playing cribbage with your mom. Did you ever play cribbage with your dad?
Yeah, did some. We used to play a game just similar to bridge, but then when Norma was old enough to do that, why, on Sunday nights a lot of times we'd play 500. And Mom and I were partners a lot of times. And
how do you play 500?
I don't even remember now. It had it's similar to bridge, but not the same. And it was a bidding game, and like bridge is, and then you had to take so many tricks. If you bid this, you had to take so many.
Did you play for money?
No, we just played. Then we had a carom board, and with pockets, and boy, I tell you, we didn't have the sticks. We used our fingers to flick the caroms across, and your fingers flicking those things, it gets so sore after hitting those things during the evening, trying to hit them and knock them in the pockets and all that. But it's pretty simple forms of entertainment that didn't cost a lot of money. It was necessary, and listen to the radio, little different programs.
Now, when your dad went to, let's see, he was in the VFA or VFW?
No, Legion.
Legion, right?
He was American Legion.
Did they have, when he went to meetings, did they play card games or anything?
They might have. I don't know. They usually met. The big meeting was about once a year, and that was during probably what they call Armistice Day or something like that in November. That was one of their big meetings. They'd have a big feed and down there and get together on that. Have a couple of bottles of Pepsi-Cola probably during the time they were down there, or something similar to that.
Yeah. Did you join the Legion after you got back?
Yes, Legion and the VFW.
So you were in the same meetings with him then for a while?
He didn't attend the meetings particularly that I remember. Mostly it was the VFW I was in, because they had a VFW club up there, and I belonged to both of them. I belonged to Legion now. I still belong to the American Legion out at Hillsboro, no, at Aloha. And I was trying to think, something came up at a periphery of this, and it just left me. Can't remember what it was. I was going to expand on that a little bit for you, but I can't remember what it was.
Did the meetings always take place in Kyoto?
Oh yeah, whenever they did have meetings, I can't remember too many for you. You were taken in. Maybe they had new people in. They'd have a meeting and do that. You asked about Dad and I. He joined the Masons. C.D. Kirkpatrick, who he worked for, I think kind of got him involved there. And he became a Mason. And then when I turned 21 in 1948, that summer I was home. In 47, I stayed there and went to summer school. at Iowa State Teachers, but in 48 I came home and worked during the summer, different jobs, and joined, and then was able to go through you had 3 stages you had to go through to join, and I managed to do those during the summer. And he hadn't completed his third or his Master Mason degree by they called it proving up, where they quizzed you and you had to answer questions. So he and Joe Guile and I proved up together, and we were both in the Masons together then. And I didn't know whether you knew that or not.
I didn't. I remember you had the Mason ring. I don't know if you still have that or not.
I may have. It's maybe in the box in there someplace. I tried to find my high school graduation watch that I was going to give to Mark, because Mark loves watches and keeps. And it was a Bulova, and it had a rose colored face on it, you know. And I can't find it. I don't know what happened to it.
I don't even think I've ever seen it.
Of course, probably I'd given it away, or not given it away, but put it away by the time you would have noticed, and had a different watch at the time.
Huh. You wouldn't have it in the safe deposit at the bank?
No. I don't know if they even have a safe deposit box.
Okay. So what's the closest you've ever come to death?
Well, I had a heart attack. I don't know how close that was. I'll tell you one where I could have. To me, it still scares me every time I think about it. As I was working on that section gang, when I was 15 or 16 years old, and they had a big rain, and we went up to Oskaloosa, around in there on the rail. We rode up on the rails, of course, and we're on a bridge over the river, over the Skunk River, I think it was, one of them, and it was pretty high. And we were sandbagging to hold the thing down, and we were standing on a flat car on the rails up above the water. And I reached down to grab a sack and pulled and slipped and started falling backwards, and one of the guys grabbed my arm and held me. If he hadn't, I would have probably toppled over the edge and fallen into the river. I don't think I'd ever survived, because I'd have probably hit the abutments on the top of the bridge before I ever went down to the water, and it was probably 15, 20 feet below where I'd have fallen into. To me, that's about as close as I came.
Wow.
And all I said at the time was, guy's name was Virgil Searcy. I said, well, thanks, Virg, something like that. Didn't he? That's okay, and went on about the business. But I get to thinking about that yet. That probably about as close as you're going to come right there.
Do you still remember the feeling of almost falling?
Yeah, I just fell backwards, and of course he caught me and just reached out and grabbed me like that, and that was it. Didn't think anything about it at the time. Just part of it.
Do you have a fear of heights?
To a certain degree, yes, I do. I've always been. I get to an edge of a 10-story building, look over, I'm probably holding on pretty much when I do that. Yeah, I don't. I think they call it vertigo, and I don't. I'm not a real brave guy when it comes to getting real high on stuff. Yet I'll climb trees. I climb 32-foot ladders to paint, doing that sort of thing. So sometimes, I guess you just have to overcome it sometimes.
You have any other fears?
Hard work, I guess.
You fear snakes or?
Oh, I'm not comfortable around them. As long as they're caged and away from me. I don't seem to. I usually have most of the usual hang-ups about different things.
Now, have you ever had a car accident? Have you ever been in one?
Not a serious one, no. Fender benders, about all I've. Only time that I remember, I was with somebody, Guile Miller and Cecil Zier. Cecil was driving, and we came home from Ottumwa. We'd been down there partying all night, and coming home from there, and next thing I knew, Cecil was punching me in the arm, waking me up, and we were over in a field. He'd gone off the road into a field or something like that. I was asleep. I was laying there asleep and didn't even know we'd gone off the road. No seat belts or anything else. And so I guess that didn't hurt the car any. I think we got it out of there and everything.
Well, you're probably not going to develop a fear of something you slept through.
That's for sure.
When and how did you meet Audrey?
Probably in 2002, Jerry Kenyon and I were playing golf. We belonged out there at the reserve, and we became sort of friends at the time and played several times together. And finally one day he knew that I was widowed, and said something about that there's a nice gal over there where they lived in the Highlands over here, which I didn't know anything about, but near King City, I didn't know that. And that I wondered if I'd be interested in maybe meeting her. And I said, oh yeah, I would. I at the time was seeing someone else, but and you remember her, but I said, yeah, I'd be glad to meet her. And so they arranged to have us over for a dinner over at Jerry and Lynn Kenyon's house. And I met her at the time, and we sat and visited and went the usual stuff. And she went home, and I went home, and that was pretty much the end of it for a while. And then one day I was out there again playing with Jerry, and he said, "Do you ever call Audrey since you were over there?" This wasn't, months later, but it's probably weeks later or something like that. I said, "I don't even know her phone number." So I got home, and there was a message on my phone, and it was Lynn, his wife, saying, "Audrey's phone number is such." So I gave her a call, and we went to a movie. And then, of course, it was a movie that I can't remember the exact name, but it was Nicolas Cage playing himself and a twin, and I didn't realize pretty raunchy movie at the time. And we went to Tiger down here to the movie, and I guess we both survived it all right. And then I had a couple more dates. One of the big ones that she enjoyed as much as anything, we went to a concert over there at Schnitzer, and it was Philip Breon doing his Sousa imitation.
John Breon? Philip Breon?
Philip Breon. Did I say the wrong?
Yeah.
John Philip Sousa, he was imitating. But we went to that concert, and I think we both enjoyed that a lot. And then, of course, they had the service songs played in each. If you were in that service, you stood up and all that. And it was kind of a nice deal all the way. And that's just pretty much, it just gravitated from there.
So where did you get married?
At the church at St. James in the, what did they call that? It wasn't in the main part of the church. It was in kind of the annex.
Kind of a little chapel annex.
Chapel annex. And Lynn and Jerry Kenyon stood up with us at the time. And we decided it was a case where we decided that if we asked one child to stand up, then the others on the other side would. So we just kept it neutral and did that, and then had a reception and invited everybody to that.
So what activities do the two of you do together, other than movies and concerts?
I guess that's about it. She'd come over to the house and we'd do some yard work. She did some yard work with me. I can't think of too many other things.
We went to concerts and.
That was mainly it. Movies and concerts.
Movies and concerts, yeah.
Pretty much the activities. Then spend time together.
Yeah.
I'd come over here and spend some time with her, and she'd come over there and spend time with me.
Of course, I would invite him for dinner and cook to show what he was missing. Good cooking.
And so what would you say is Audrey's best trait?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, she's non-judgmental is one thing. It's one of her better traits. And the fact that she is very even dispositioned. She can get upset, but it takes a lot to do that. And being around me, that shows the qualities of a saint, I think. But what you see is what you get, and she doesn't put on any pretenses. She's well liked for that in the community because people know she doesn't judge people particularly. She just accepts them for what they are. And I think that's a nice trait to have.
So how do you think your personality has changed throughout your life?
Oh, I've probably become a little less fiery in my disposition. Probably less judgmental than I have been at times when I was younger. I had certain things that I thought I felt strongly about, and they weren't that strong, and I've since mellowed out with that sort of thing. Try to get along as best I can with people and different things. I can't really say how I have changed. Probably other people could say he's done this or done that. You're pretty hard to judge yourself. What is it if you could only see yourself as others see you sometimes? And you're sometimes the worst judge of what you are. So.
Well, I don't think your sense of humor has changed over the years.
No, probably not.
For as long as I've known you, anyway, I don't know what it was like when you were growing up, but
it's pretty much the same. It's always ready for a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've always been a pretty positive person too, and I've always liked that quality in you because I don't think that Mom was always that way. And even with your recent illnesses and stuff, you weren't getting down about stuff. You were staying, if nothing else, at least neutral. But you've always been pretty positive and optimistic about things.
Some people think I'm negative about stuff. The guys at the golf course and some of that. But I have been positive, and I've always been positive, which I think helps about my health. I always feel that it's going to work out the best. I think you have to feel that way. If you think, oh my gosh, here I go, this is it, I think you're asking for trouble. So I guess I am positive about that sort of thing.
Well, do you think that getting up into an age of 80 years old, that means that you have to change in certain ways? I've been using the excuse lately, just kiddingly, with Eileen, that now that we're 50s, we don't have to do certain things, which isn't true. But do you think that now that you're in your 80s, that there's things that you don't have to do, or things that you don't have to feel or say or whatever?
I don't feel quite that way. I think, as you will discover as you get older, your age will dictate what you're feeling and what you're doing. You soon learn that your capabilities are not quite the same. I find that, especially with golf, that my skills are deteriorating little by little as I go along. I still enjoy it, that's the main thing, but I look back 10 years and think of what I was doing then and what I'm doing now, and there's quite a bit of difference. One of the things we both comment about, Audrey and I, that we enjoy being home and comfortable, and just being here is very soothing to us. And it's a simple thing, but we're not out. We enjoy going places, doing things. We're even cutting back on that slightly. But go do something, come home, and it always feels good to get home.
Do you think that it's a little more stressful for you to get out and do things now?
A little. I still drive with confidence, but I am very much aware of what's going on. I'm very conscious of trying to see back, side, forward, everything like that, because I know my reaction time probably isn't as quick as it has been, and I need to prepare for driving. That's one of the reasons we stopped going to bowling on Wednesday evenings, because I was going to have to come home well, I would have done it, but she didn't feel comfortable coming home in the dark, and especially the rain in the evening, after going to eat something and then probably coming home at 7 or 7:30 at night, driving home with this, which was a little ways from Sunset Bowling Alley to here. And so we gave that up. We've dropped the symphony concerts, which I hated to do because I'd been a member there for quite a while.
Yeah.
But again, the going up and down the stairs with no rails and that sort of thing was right where the seating was. There were rails getting up to your level, but then when you got to the seats, there weren't rails. And it was a little, again, there's the height thing with me again.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to do was take a misstep and fall and tumble down a bunch of stairs. So we kind of gave that up. So I guess we are pulling in our horns a little bit on things.
Well, when Mark was out, the main reason I wanted us to go to the reserve that one day was I wanted him to see you drive, because I had driven with you before, and I had told him that I felt that you were driving just as good as you ever have, but I wanted him to see that, and he and I both agreed you were doing just fine. I mean, you're driving just as good as I would, or any I've ever seen you drive in the past. So at the age 82, that's something that some people can't say.
Yeah.
They get behind a wheel and they have problems. So I think you're doing just fine.
Well, as long as I concentrate, and I do concentrate.
Yeah.
I feel that somebody's going to tell me if my skills do deteriorate. I'm going to get told, Dad, we need to take the keys. You can't drive anymore sometime.
It's going to be a while from what I saw. So I wouldn't have any problems putting one of the kids in the car with you and letting you drive them around. So.
Well, that's good to hear, because I feel that I'm still competent to do certain things.
Well, it's always sometimes difficult to judge where you're at with things, and you always figure, am I slipping up a little bit at the age of 82? Now, you've outlived your father. I mean, he died in his early 70s.
Yeah.
And your mom, of course, lived to about, 95?
95.
So, do you ever think about what she went through living to that age? I know she had Parkinson's. But
She had that, and it affected her voice. She had the Parkinson's that was different. It was internal in place of external. She didn't have the shaky hands and all that sort of thing, but it caused problems internally with her. I think she had other things besides that. She, of course, became immobile. I think she fell. They didn't get her quick enough when she'd gone to the bathroom one time, and she tried to get up on her own and fell. And I think, did she break her hip? I can't remember.
I didn't think she did, but she might have.
Anyway, she was pretty much confined to either bed or wheelchair from then on. Norma, she stayed with Norma, and Norma told her, as long as you're able to get up and get around, you can stay here as long as you want. But the minute you can't get up and get around, then we're going to have to take you out to the nursing home. And that's what happened. I can't remember exactly how many years, but she was in the nursing home for several years. And still had her sense of humor.
Well, I think the last time we saw her was probably 1989, and she wasn't communicating much at that point, I don't think. But we had the boys there. She got to see Troy for the first time, and there wasn't a lot of communication, but she, you could tell that she understood what was going on, I think. But it reminds me a little bit of what Mom went through, the last 5 months, and you know what you're going through, and it's not good, and it's not the way you want to live. I feel sorry for Grandma, because that was a long period of time that she had to go through that.
Well, I've said many a time, and I suppose I'll be fighting tooth and nail to hang on by my fingernails, but I don't want to be in a nursing home for years and do all that sort of thing. I would just as soon have it end before it gets to that stage. I'd like to think that I could be mobile, and if it is going to be immobile for a short period of time or something. I'm not interested in living till 95 or 96 if I'm going to spend 4 or 5 years just practically being an invalid. It isn't. I don't have much choice. If something happened, that's what it is, that's what it is. But if I have a choice, I'd just as soon not have that happen.
Well, that's what a DNR is supposed to help with a little bit. Do you have one signed or something like that?
I do have the directive that also, I don't know if you're aware, but I have long-term care insurance that I'm paying on. That would last me about a year probably, but that would help with expenses at least if I ever had to do something like that. But
well, I think you feel the same way about it. I would not want to have to live that kind of lifestyle, and if there was a situation where they had to resuscitate me and all it was going to be was the kind of lifestyle I wouldn't want to live, I would just assume they didn't resuscitate me.
Well, there's always the what if, but it's a case where if you're going to have some quality of life, fine, resuscitate if you can. If your mind is still active and you can have some quality of life and enjoy people a little bit, but if it's a case where you're just almost to the vegetative stage, that's futile. It's just not worth it. On that happy note.
Yeah, might as well end it on that.